All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the National AD Call. It's been a while, so it's so great to see all your faces. My name is Amanda Waters. I am the Director of Athletics at Mater Dei in Santa Ana, and I am here with my friend and partner, Ira.
Ira Childers, Athletic Director, Gulliver Prep, Miami, Florida. It's good to see everybody. For those who don't have the camera on, I mean, feel free to turn your camera on. We always love to see your smiling faces. Yeah, like you said, Amanda, it's been a while. These calls have been great because we get a chance to touch everybody around the country, from California to Texas to Florida to New Jersey to Seattle, Washington, everywhere. So that's exciting. All right, back to you, Amanda, and then we'll go ahead.
Great. I just want to say, I don't know where everybody is, but it's nice because we started kids this week. We're 25% hybrid, which is great. We started athletics, which has been good and crazy all in the same. It's kind of one of those times where you have everything set and you think it's good, and then you kind of throw out some stuff and pivot around and start again. So it's kind of been that fun but crazy type time. So I'm interested here. I can't wait when we go there to hear what other states are doing and how people are doing. So Ira, I'll let you get started with our special guest.
Yeah, that's great. We from time to time on this podcast over the last 6 months or however long it's been, it seems like forever, but it's been going great. And we always have special guests from time to time. And today is we've had athletic directors, college athletic directors, NCAA. We've had all kinds of people on this show, and today we have another very special guest, somebody who is not only a friend of mine, but an outstanding professional and somebody who is considered one of the best in the country in their field. And she does an outstanding job. She currently works with MLB, and also she works with the Los Angeles Clippers as well, and she has a decorated background when you talk about sports performance, and she's done an outstanding job for several years, and today she's going to come on and talk to us athletic directors of how our coaches and student athletes can help in the area, can help our coaches and student athletes in the area of sports performance. So let's give a warm welcome to Laura Mitchell-Wild, who is Director of Sports Performance, and also many other things. And like I said, she works for the Clippers, although she was not in the bubble. So I will say, since she was not in the bubble, I will blame that on the reason why the Clippers did not win at all. If she would have been in the bubble with the Clippers, I think they would have won it all. Right, Laura?
I'm like, Doc Rivers, call me. We can fix this next time.
Exactly. Laura, well, thanks for joining us. Again, we have athletic directors here representing all parts of this country. So feel free to chime in.
Okay. Everyone, thanks for having me. I know this has probably been one of the most interesting or crazy years for all of you guys. I can only imagine. I feel like the tragedy is really these high school and college athletes who are in the middle of this career where time is so valuable and really where time matters. And every year they lose, not being able to develop is a chance for them to not have their dreams be actually realized. So my job is to help people. I always think the idea of a wrinkle in time. How do we get a little further in the short time we have, maybe to make some of these dreams come true, especially if I'm a junior or senior and I've missed out on opportunities. So I met Ira when I was still begging. Literally, I was at the NBA or the NFL combines showing up. He worked for the NCAA, and I was trying to get someone to listen. Hey, guys, I do this really cool healing work, and I do mental performance. So I always think of myself as the perfect testament to getting what you really desire and making all of your dreams come true with persistence. So some of the ways I do mental performance is a little different. I really love it because I blend the mind-body holistic idea of everything. So a couple things I've been doing with the athletes I work with, including the pro guys. It's like, how do you really get someone really inspired and excited? So I make everyone make a really huge statement or ask a huge question. And it's one that they often don't want to share with anyone. So for example, I make all of our rookies make a statement like this: I am a perennial all-star, a world champion, and they pick one other thing. And then it's interesting how guys come in and they end up doing better because they've now left some of their, maybe the mediocrity, and they've stepped up and have or a big, huge, or ask a big, huge question like, I am one of the best, players of all times, or how about this? Who or what must I become in order to be a perennial all-star? Because the way I kind of see this is that we can't ask a question outside of our own world that we live in. So if we ask a question that's really big, it can lead us to great answers. So that's one of the first things I have people do. And even some of the high school athletes I work with now, who are feeling a little darkness, a little bit nervous, I'm like, let's really focus on how great you can be. And what I always say that they'd like is that they haven't reached their potential, because even the potential they have for themselves is only perceived potential. So a perceived potential versus actual potential are one of the ways I use to get athletes motivated, because any perceived potential is what their goals are right now, but they have to be able to see outside of their limited space. And the way they get there is by asking big, huge questions or making big, huge statements, okay? I also have them do mental reps, which every mental performance coach has athletes do mental reps, but my mental reps are different. So one of the things I've done to motivate players to get out of slumps is I have them play a basketball game where they score 1,000,000 points. So as soon as I say, do you want to score 1,000,000 points in the game? They're like listening. They're like, what? That's impossible. And the way I came up with this is one time I was working with a player. It was, my first year. And I said, let's close our eyes. We're going to go into the zone, because that's kind of my specialty, is taking athletes into the zone with a proprietary, formula to get there. Because getting into the zone on command is something that most athletes can't do. So I said, hey, let's go play a game of basketball. And he was a young guy. We went into the zone together, and I kind of talked him through playing his game. And I said, you can score as many points as you want. There's no limit. You can have whatever stats you want. So we play our game. We come out of the zone. And I said, hey, how many points did you score? He goes, 24. I was like, wow. And I didn't make fun of him. I said, that's a lot of points, because for him it was. He was averaging like 1.2 points. And I said, ask me how many I scored. He said, how many did you score? I said, 1,000,000. He was like, you can't score 1,000,000 points in a basketball game. I said, no, I just did. He goes, you can't do that. I said, no, I just did. I just played and scored 1,000,000 points in that game. He's like, that's not possible. I said, well, what's possible is that I imagined it was possible, and we just had a game where there were no limits, and look how you limited yourself. So when I show the athletes, and they think I'm going to be great, I always make this joke. I'll ask, a superstar player who was like 1 for 8 in a game and shooting. I'll say, hey, would you like to talk tomorrow? They go, I'm good. So athletes tend to say that I'm good, and they push away what could be so helpful for them. So I always say things like, well, you may be good, but are you scoring 1,000,000 points? So are you really imagining outside of your own skill set to the next level? Because your perceived potential is where you are right now. There's a whole new space. Like, we have a capacity to be amazing, but right now you're only operating at your capability. So we talk a lot at the Clippers about capacity versus capability. So as I up my capability, my capacity to be great expands. Another thing I talk about is the superhuman mental reps, which are imagining these, leaping over the backboard or dunking the basketball, even if you're 5'1". So if the mental reps are just very mundane and day by day they're the same, players aren't going to be excited. But, maybe, the coaches, you guys are sometimes working with your players on Zoom. I know, especially if you're in California, you're probably not getting together. So I've been using these superhuman mental reps for athletes to get them excited. So just let them use their imagination and go crazy and go wild. And, you're going to dunk 3 basketballs in a row when you're up there. So have them really play around with things they don't normally experience with their physical bodies, but in this space, because this big, huge statement they're creating has to have something to match it. So the superhuman mental reps actually matches the big, huge statement. And then I have them do real meditation and breath work. So I always say real meditation, because the goal is for them to have self-awareness, not just to be better about stress, but to have a self-awareness where they recognize that they are triggered by something, or that they're depressed today. So I ask the guys every day, hey, on a scale of 1 to 5, how are you feeling? And then whether or not the answer is part of the answer too, right? And so I'm often surprised, because I probably am a 5 every day, and the players are more like a 3, So it's like, how do we get you to a 5? So having them constantly be aware of how they're thinking and feeling has helped, especially through the long period of time when I wasn't seeing the guys in person, or the women I work with. And the real meditation and breath work is something that I love to teach. It's really all about getting still and just closing your eyes and letting yourself have that minute, or those 2 minutes or 3 minutes, just to be. And from there, athletes can get trained really easily to get into the zone. So I did this talk with the Black Coaches Association. I just had everyone close their eyes and just notice, if you will, for a second. I want you to do nothing. So don't even breathe. When you close your eyes, do nothing. Don't even breathe until the breath finds you. Let the breath come and find you. And then when you feel the breath finding you, allow the breath. And then see if you can move that breath to the top of your head like an elevator. And then you can let it sort of be at the top in this kind of suspenseful way, and then let it gently move down your body. And so as we go through these times of stress, we don't have to take the breath, because the breath is there. It's already going to happen whether or not we are conscious of it. And so if we can start something simple, like recognizing that our breath is the greatest gift of our life, and just notice it. Just notice the breath and really get into it and allow yourself to receive breath. And that's the start of shifting ourselves out of fight or flight and into rest and relax. So that's one of the things, those are some of the things I like to share with the athletes. And you guys can always reach out, ask me questions if you're interested. I don't know if Ira, you gave my website. Could you do that?
Yeah, well, I'll have you put some stuff in the chat, but I know there are going to be some questions right now. So Amanda, I'll let you start. Go ahead.
For sure. First of all, thank you so much for joining us. I've heard so many amazing things about you, so I'm really excited. And here's my first question to you, is, as athletic directors, we're in charge of our coaches, who are then in charge of our kids, right? And so one of the biggest messages that I try to send a lot is, it's okay to not be okay. You know, like, it's okay to not be okay. And so how as athletic directors can we help our coaches? What tips and tools can we kind of help and give to them so that they can kind of help kind of what you're saying with getting those kind of the kids to kind of relax? And, you know, now's a different time, right? So it's not just getting ready for games anymore. It's like whatever they've dealt with for the last 6 months may now be coming out when they're playing. So any advice you could give for that?
Well, one of the things that I do when I work with the young athletes is I have them sit, and I used to coach high school and college. So I was a coach at Malibu High School and Monterey High School. So I actually really like high school athletes, probably the most of all, as you can probably imagine. They're a lot of fun to coach, and they don't have the same egos that I kind of deal with these days. So I have little tricks. Things that I might use on an 8-year-old work really well on a 17-year-old. So I have them sit very quietly. It's like, they don't tend to sit that much, right? Have them sit and I say, do your elevator breathing. Let the elevator go to the top 3 times and then move gently down. And then I have them literally unzip everything that's bothering them. It's like, you know, we can be in this sea of life that is just crazy. So unzip whatever the sea of life or your suit and step out of it. And you'd be surprised that when people do this and they imagine unzipping all the junk and stepping out, they can really start to feel better. And one of the reasons they do that, I have them step out and I have them open their shoulders back, is because that opens up the heart center. And even if you don't tell them about that, it is a shift in the body, because we do know that the mind affects the body, but the body affects the mind. So if you do a motion like smile on purpose, even if you're not happy, your neurochemical reactions change. So even though we always say, yeah, the mind affects the body, I'm a mind-body, medicine specialist. And I was always telling people, years ago, the mind is the most important thing, but the body has its own things. Like if you open your shoulders, you are going to minimize your depression by a certain percentage points. This is like scientific studies that have been done. So when someone opens up, steps out of the stress of life, that helps. When you have them practice good posture, you have them practice smiling. I would say if you're meeting with the team and you can get them to have the first 5 minutes doing some of this mindfulness work, that you can really change their energy by changing their body language, and then their mind starts to free a little bit. And of course, once they're playing and sweating, then that's the easy part.
Yeah, well, the endorphins kick in, and then it's not, the stress kind of goes away. I think the second question probably would be, You know, obviously this is a different type of year. So I think what you're saying about the breathing and those things are super important. What are your thoughts? I've had a lot of people talk about, you know, journaling and for these kids and having those types of outlets. What's your thought on that? I mean, do you think that is useful? Do you think it adds more work to their life? Because I know that that's a lot of what the mental health professionals are saying, like they need to be journaling. And I'm like, does that add more pressure to them? Like, what are your thoughts there?
I think journaling is one of the best ways that athletes and coaches and people can manage this time because but I'd also say do it very intentionally, right? So every day give yourself a rating scale 1 to 5. You know, 1 being a terrible day, 5 being amazing. And then that way you have some look back. And on the days I'm a 5, why am I a 5? And if I'm a 1, why? Or 3, why? So even just capturing how you feel, if that's all you do is say, today I'm a 3 because of this, that can be really powerful to help people move past, because then they have the self-awareness of, oh, I was a 3. And then they start to recognize, because my thing is, if you don't recognize you're a 3 and not a 5, you might not be as likely to get to that 5 where you feel great. And like you said, it's okay to not be okay, and having people get permission. Hey, if you're a 1, that's okay. Just know I'm here to support you. But I would say if they have a journal and they do 1 sentence a day, let them start with that little measurement. And then, you know, ultimately they're going to enjoy it, because that is actually a very powerful way to unleash our mind stress. They've shown that when people write things down, they actually can be more connected. So maybe they would even write words. I wish I was this. So I've always loved journaling. It's hard to get the NBA guys to buy into it. So it's funny. The other day I was like, I bet you I could get a really cool high school coaching job right now. After, I mean, we kind of messed it up not winning the world championship. I was like, I can be a high school coach somewhere again. So people are like, what? Like, no, being in the NBA is amazing. And I'm glad I've been here for almost 3 years. At the same time, you get the perspective and you go, oh man, the high school kids are so precious and they're just so innocent and so you know, whatever that word is, unspoiled by millions and unspoiled by people saying, you're the best ever, you know. So it's just, I miss the high school kids. And I really remember when I was coaching at high school and at college, I had our team create a team mantra. The favorite part for them of the game was before the game, like, I don't know if I remember these words, but it was like, we, the Malibu Sharks, are committed to being dedicated to ourselves, each other, and to creating a great game for the fans. And we all put in words. Everyone got to throw in a word. And we had this thing we'd say together. And it was so powerful. And it was like, we'd do that, and then we'd say, you know, Sharks on 3. But the other team would look, you know, and I know a lot of teams now do things like that. But it was, I've imagined you could do that on a Zoom call. You could do that at practice. So everyone gets their word in and feels connected. Because what I've noticed with our guys the most is over the time period when they weren't together, some guys hung out, some guys didn't. And so bringing everyone into the fold was something that really kind of never happened for our team, right? Some of them weren't in the bubble, and it showed. The team chemistry really we had a hard time with team chemistry down the stretch. And I always feel like if we could create a statement where everyone feels part of it, even if you're on the bench, I have a word and that mantra that we all say before the game, like, I'm important, I matter. And, you know, that also measure the energy of the team, right? I could tell my team is ready based on how they said that.
Well, and I like to, like, you could actually use the 5 being a good day. You could actually just like send a little thing to your coaches and be like, how you doing today? Like, and you know what I mean? And kind of respond. And then maybe they could take that and use it to their athletes. So I like that.
Yeah. I use that with some of our coaches. Not everyone buys in, but the ones who answer, and if they don't answer, I go, why aren't you answering? You know what? A no answer is often a 1 or a 2. And that lets you know, reach out. Yeah.
Yeah. Laura, we're going to let you go here in a second. Anyone else that have any questions for Laura, feel free to ask them right now. And then also, Laura, can you put your email real quick in the chat so people can reach out to you that way?
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Thanks so much. I wish you all the best. I know these are hard times, but people like you guys are the reason that the kids are still good and they're okay. I mean, I thank you and I honor you for your hard work. I know it's a lot harder to work at high school than it is in the pros. So
yeah, one thing I'll ask you before you go, Laura, I'll ask you one last question. You know, as it relates to you know, mental performance, you know, you gave a great example earlier about you know scoring 30 points. How much of this is confident driven, and you know, people always talk about you know gaining confidence and that being a big thing from a mental standpoint. Obviously, I know you're in the NBA and you're working, with people like Kawhi Leonard and all these great players. So maybe their confidence is there. But talk about that just before you go, that confidence piece.
Well, the reason I've had people make a big, huge statement is because then their subconscious mind starts to find the pathway there. So if I say every day I'm dumb, then pretty soon I'm going to get dumber and dumber. My test scores will fall. We know this from Maxwell Maltz's work in the book Psycho-Cybernetics. But if every day I say I'm smart, so I'm actually creating that sort of, new belief system in their mind, but we're just elevating it, making it so big that we have to change or become someone new to be that great athlete. And that's really where it's going to help the athletes create a big statement. I am a perennial all-star in the NBA. And I don't, sometimes that's too big of a dream for the kids, but guess what? We expand their mindset like that. They're going to start to create a very strong groove to greatness and excellence. So whatever they do will benefit from it, even if they don't make it to the NBA. So I never have a problem with kids who say they're going to go to the NBA and the NFL. I used to work as a college counselor in a high school in LA. And I would say, great, tell me what we're going to do for that. How are you going to be excellent? So I actually love these big, huge, lofty dreams because it will help someone get there. So why not create a huge, lofty dream that you'd be insane to be able to follow through with and to reach? Because that'll help your subconscious mind open up and you will experience more confidence. And that's what I've noticed with my guys. They're not all confident, especially with the young guys. When I have them start to cultivate the idea of mastery so that they can expand into being a world champion or a perennial all-star, just a new thought, and the thought actually drives them to do a little more, and they get a little better, little by little.
I love it.
I think that's great. One last question. We'll get to, I think Rodney here said, hey, can I ask one question? So go ahead.
Thank you. Great guest, Ira. I'm going to have to book you for my kids' birthday parties. You have all these great guests come in. This is awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Laura. Two things that you would just tell all high school athletes. I know you're working, obviously now with the Clippers and you have some, maybe one-on-ones with, but what are maybe two blanket messages that if you can go back, as I'm sure you will one day, that you would just tell all high school athletes, knowing what you know now, that we all can kind of take from our programs?
Okay. One thing I would say is that NBA players are as lazy as any other athletes who don't make it to the NBA. They're just a little bit less lazy. And I don't mean it in a bad way. I just mean there's just enough more work that an NBA player does than the person who doesn't make it. So, the growth mindset, right? Your talent is important, but putting that little extra time is what will get you to the NBA. Kawhi Leonard is great because he has a great work ethic. It started with that, right? So to me, the work ethic and recognizing that even at the top, the athletes are not necessarily more talented. It just looks like it because they put the hard work in. If I could tell myself that as a high school athlete, I was too older than too old, I say, to be in the WNBA. But had I known what I know now, I still would have had a way better college career. And the other thing I would say to them is that, I guess everything you learn as a high school athlete is great. I really hated high school. And if I could talk to younger me, I'd say, nothing that happens at high school really ultimately matters in life, but how you, keep going through these tough times is what really matters. So ultimately that stuff's not going to matter, but they will have a much better life after high school. And I don't know if I'm really giving this to you in the way that makes sense, but I would tell myself in high school, these are the worst years of your life. So no matter how much you hate them, it's okay. Life will be amazing after this. Because I really did struggle through high school and middle school. I was always bullied. But persistence is why I got to where I am. I would do whatever it took. There were times I slept in my car. Ira knows this. I was telling the story one time. I said, I slept in my car when I didn't have enough money to do things. I would sleep on the floor of someone's room at the convention. I would sleep in the lobby. If I didn't have money, I would book a ticket to Indianapolis and just trust. And so really trusting and having faith was, I would say, what got me to where I am.
Yeah, you know what? And I don't want to get too far into this, but Laura's an amazing testimony herself. Just somebody who was just perseverance. I mean, she chased me down in the hotel lobby in Indianapolis when I was at the NCAA and said, hey, listen, I have this program. I want to work. I want to do this. And I said, yeah, okay, you know, and then I'd give me your card or whatever. But then she called and called and called and called. And, you know, and then all of a sudden she just kept working. And I kept seeing her at different things and different things. And eventually people started to buy in and believe. And now she's a big shot, you know, I mean, but it just goes to show you hard work really, really pays off. And that dedication pays off. So we're out of time, Laura. We'll see you later tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on, and your contact. I know there's a lot more questions, but your contact information is in there, so people can email you questions. If you have some stuff for Laura, feel free to email her.
Thanks guys so much, Laura. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye. Thanks.
Amanda, so do we want to jump into the agenda?
Let's jump right in. She was great, by the way. She was great, which we already knew when she's got in. And I love how you like tell me at the last minute who we have. Like,
that's
oh,
our role,
like,
man. That's our.
I'm like, really? No love, no love. So it's not all you that find out last minute. It's me too. I love it. Okay, so first, I want to hear about fall seasons around the nation. I want to hear what people are doing. How's it going? I can't wait for that discussion. So I'll tell you. We're in Santa Ana, obviously at Mater Dei. We have doing off season for about, this is the 7th week. We started school last week on a hybrid 25% kids back. And it has been so great to see kids. They come in a little concerned the first day and left smiling. You know, how would your day go? And I actually heard one kid say, God, they're so organized, it's annoying, which is the best thing you can actually hear from a kid. So I'm interested to hear how everybody's doing and how it's going. Ira, you want to talk about Florida a little bit?
Yeah, Florida's off and running. All sports are up and going. We've been competing in sports here for the last couple of weeks, and we have our first football game in 2 days on Friday. So that will be good. We're playing a team that's undefeated, and you know, we haven't played a game yet. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I feel like we're going to have a really good team this year. So we're excited. You know, I think the biggest thing is we're just hoping that everything continues to go well and go smooth, because all this stuff, as we know, is kind of day to day. So we just got to, you know, take it one day at a time.
For sure. So I figured we'll go in the chat. I kind of had everybody put their name, their school, and where they're from, so that you can also connect with other ADs if they're kind of in your state or in your area as well. So let's start off with Jen. Is it Dowdy? From Juliet Central High School in Illinois.
Yes. Hi, everybody.
Hi. How is it going in southwest of Chicago?
Well, it's cold here today, by the way. So
It's 99 here, so
we're
That's
kind
why
of
I'm
changing the
not
season. Right now, we have boys and girls cross country going, boys and girls golf, girls tennis, and girls swimming. And we're actually starting our postseason play next week for golf. So our high school association kind of shifted boys soccer, football, and girls volleyball, which is traditionally done in the fall. They moved it to another time of the year. So as you guys may know or may not know, our governor is very adamant about not having medium to high risk sports compete or go at this time. But we are able to do fall contact dates. So our basketball, every sport is allowed to do the fall contact dates. So that's been kind of nice. So our basketball team has been in, you know, football, badminton, poms, cheer. We're on some restrictions where inside we have to wear masks at all times. So it's been interesting with that. One thing I would suggest, just from personal experience right now with what we're dealing with, is if you have multiple levels, have them practice separate, because what we're finding out, for example, we had an individual with our lower level cross country team test positive, and because they were already practicing separately, we only had to shut down the lower level team. Our varsity team could still go. So That's been kind of a stress of ours here at the school, of making sure that you stay in those workout pods so that the entire group doesn't get shut down.
Got it. All right. Great. All right. So you're moving too, at least in a good direction, seems to be.
Yeah. And some schools have gone back to hybrid. We have not yet. Our area here is a little higher on positivity rates. So our school board, we're still in remote learning until November 16th. And then they're going to make another decision on whether we come back to hybrid or go back. But there are several schools in Illinois that have gone back to hybrid or have been in school full session.
Got it. All right. Thanks for sharing. I appreciate you. Chris Hobbs, Dr. Chris Hobbs.
Amanda, how are you?
I was laughing already. Here he is. What's happening? How's it going?
Ira, you doing
man,
well, brother?
Hey, it's always good to see you, man. I like that background too, man. You're always setting the bar high.
Listen, so everyone knows too, Ira is 2 counties south of me here. I'm in Palm Beach County, Ira's in Dade County. And Ira and I have some unspoken tension because my school is not allowed to play against Dade County schools right now. And so Ira and I are putting on a friendly face right now, even though we got a little underlying tension here. I'm at the Kings Academy in West Palm Beach, Florida. We are about 4 weeks into our full fall game schedule. I just had my winter coaches meeting on Zoom last night because winter sports begins to open October 12th for us. And over the next 3 weeks after that, we will roll out all of our winter sports teams. And so we are steadily making this happen. It has been very complicated, as you all can imagine. My only suggestions to everyone would be when you open up for full practicing and full games, I would suggest that you have your own separate screening process for your athletic department. Don't rely on your school and what takes place in your school hallways. If for no other reason than when kids get screened in at 8 a.m. and when they go to your practices at 3 or 3:30 p.m. or 4 p.m., that's a long time in this pandemic. That's a lot of hours for a lot of contact to happen. So I would recommend a separate screening process. And the other thing that I would recommend is don't be afraid to change things and make them more strict as you go on. We started very strict, put a huge emphasis on what we were calling every athlete, every time, as a way to reference how often we were going to screen our kids. Every time we got together for the smallest athletic event, smallest athletic practice, we were going to screen in every kid every time. And so that put on a huge administrative burden on our department, but it's something we were committed to. And even still, with all the other stuff that you all are probably doing, we have found pockets and areas where we could even be more rigid while still being able to practice and play. And so I wouldn't shy away from being obsessive about sanitizing, obsessive about screening, put a face mask on the kids every conceivable time that you can. Separate the kids, socially distance them every conceivable time that you can. It's all about reducing risk as you're going along. And so I have to keep reminding my people that this is worth it. The only thing worse than this is a canceled season. And so that's kind of how we're handling things down here in Southeast Florida.
No, 100% agree, without a doubt. And I think that that's the hardest piece, right? Because we're all used to being in the office and grinding with emails and stuff like that. You got to be out there. You got to remind and keep reminding and minding everybody, and then working together, right? So thanks, Chris, for sharing. I appreciate you. All right, Jamie from Park City, Utah. I cannot wait to talk to Jamie about how it's going over there.
Well, I think we're in week 8 of football, and we haven't had any adjustments to the calendars of the season. So we're one of the few states, I think, that did not make any changes. But I think echoing what Jen and Chris just said, I mean, Jen's spot on with what we've had. We do have one team that did get dinged last week that is in quarantine right now for 2 weeks. So we have one that but just about, probably at least a dozen to 2 dozen schools have had the same thing. For those of you that have any kind of numbers at all in your schools, if you're not really far rural, I'd be very surprised that you don't wind up with something. It's just impossible to keep it out. And I think what Chris said is what we do. It's just keep stacking layers of mitigation on top of each other, make it as hard as possible for the virus to get to you. We've had a little bit of, I guess it's called COVID fatigue, where we were doing very, very well, and people just get comfortable and get a little bit lazy. And it goes back to what Chris said, is you stay on them every single day, because that's when it gets you. The hardest thing has been so far when we've had cases is, and we're in school, so our kids do have the option. We are fully in school, in person, but we also have the online option. The hardest part is when a kid in a classroom tests positive, and then you've got that, essentially that Q circle, that circle of quarantine around them, that a kid that could do everything exactly perfect still gets quarantined because of potential exposure. I mean, that's the hardest part that you got to watch for. But otherwise, it's been great. It's kind of business as usual. But again, back to what Jen said, keep groups separate. We've had one program that they get together, but then they separate. But the fact that they get together has caused some issues. We've had one program that their teams are separated, and one team kind of had an issue, but it didn't affect anybody else. Make sure you communicate with parents. We've got parents that think if their kids don't get tested, it won't be an issue. And there's all kinds of crazy thoughts out there about how they're going to get around it. And it's just that piece of informing and educating everybody on it. But yeah, it's been great. I mean, echo the same sentiments. The kids they've valued the fact that they've been able to get back into school and get back into their seasons and do something. So most of the time they've been great, but you still, every single day, it seems like it's constantly, get your mask up, stop touching each other, get away from each other, put your mask up. Just where we're at right now. So that's just what we keep saying to make sure they have a season. But yeah, it's been good. And you just manage it. I think somebody else had said that too. You just manage it day to day. With a case pops up, the admin manages it, and usually just because you have a case doesn't mean it's going to shut everybody down.
Yeah, it's interesting, the whole everybody wants to hug, and or there's some, and then you have two sides, right? You have parents that are adamant they don't like masks, they're not wearing them, and so they tell their kids that, and then you have others that are like, why aren't they wearing a mask? So yeah, I just kind of say, what would you do to play sports again? And their answer is, oh, I'd do anything. Then wear your mask. Like, just wear your mask then. There you go. That's how you play. Like, and I get it. Like, not everybody has to agree on why they're wearing it, but wear it. So yeah, that's the biggest challenge. Thanks, Jamie, for sharing. All right, Shane Finney from Cranbrook.
Hello, everyone. From
Shane,
Michigan. We are a.
Shane, I have to tell you before you start that every time I see your background, I think of the movie 8 Mile and the Cranbrook rap. I'm just going to say that I every time, and I've wanted to say that for like 8 weeks, and Ira's laughing at me. It makes me laugh every time. So sorry, I just had to say that.
I have to say that's not the first time I've heard that.
I'm sure not the 100th.
So here in Michigan, things are a little different. We are full go in all sports. Most schools are in week 3 of football. For those of you who don't know, our football was canceled and moved to the spring. And then we follow what the Big Ten does. So the Big Ten brought football back, and so did Michigan.
God,
so
I'm so jealous. Amazing.
Yes. So we're playing football. Our school is actually, as Jen and Chris said, we're actually have stricter protocols. This is actually going to be week 1 for us for football. We are testing all of our athletes every Monday that are in mid and high risk sports. And we have to get 4 games in. And the unique thing about football this year is everyone's making the playoffs. So your week 9, everybody makes the playoffs, so you don't have to worry about points and scheduling and all those things. My guess is they're going to go to that in the future across the board. We've eliminated all the large tennis invites, cross-country invites, volleyball tournaments. Volleyball are doing a lot of quads. Cross-country races are running multiple races in a day, 45 minutes apart from each other. So that's interesting. I have learned that I am now the mask police. On the fields, we, bring the coaches and captains and officials together and say, if we see your mask down, we're going to, tell you to put it back up. If we continue to see it, then your team forfeits. And that really has been a good policy for us. Probably the best thing, and probably all of you are going to be very envious of us, is we are spectator free. So we don't have to have parents right now. And it is wonderful, I have to say. It is a blessing. The officials love us more. It's great. And it does look like things are loosening up. Our governor just made an executive order where you can have up to 20% of your capacity or 500 max at a football game or indoor facility. So those things will change, and we'll go to, you could get 2 spectators per participant. So it's kind of where Michigan is. Our head, and we had Mark Ewell on earlier this year. He and our governor, they don't always see eye to eye. So it's kind of interesting to watch that political battle transpire. But the good thing is we got kids back into school. The energy and excitement are fantastic, and there's some sense of normalcy for Michigan.
I love it. Ira has a question too, I believe.
Yeah, quick question, Shane, when you talk about the testing program, because I know a lot of people aren't doing that, I know you guys are printing money there at Cranbrook, so that's good. So you can do that. But talk to us, give us a little detail. How is that testing program working? I'm guessing obviously you had an outside firm come in, a testing company come in and do it. Was parents on board? Quick synopsis about that testing program.
Sure, be happy to. Before our school started, and we're pre-K through 12, and we have 1,600 plus students, everybody had to take a test in which the school did pay for that one in order to get back into school. Luckily, out of those 1,600, we only had 3 cases, which was fantastic. What we're doing now is we have contracted at a company out of Kansas City, and every Monday, our mid and high risk sports have to take a test. The parents have to pay for it. It's $65 a test once a week. If you didn't play that week, you don't have to take one. So we're monitoring that. We did our first one this week, and we tested over 100 athletes in just under 15 minutes. It worked out well. Our parents are on board. We are a private school. If there are some financial aid issues, those things are covered within their financial aid package. So the students, they spit, and we send it off, and we get the test tomorrow. The results back tomorrow. So.
Wow.
That's great. Thanks, Shane. And by the way, Amanda, Shane couldn't be more further from 8 Mile. He's in Detroit, but where he's at is couldn't be further. You're closer to 8 Mile than he is. So.
Oh, that's so funny. I just couldn't. The first time he came on to talk, I was like, I can't do it the first time I see him, but
right.
Sure you can.
Say something eventually.
Shane's the best. Thanks, Shane.
Bet.
For sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, time for one more, Amanda, maybe.
Yeah, let me talk. Let's bring on Marion George. Marion, if you want to step on for a minute. He's McDuffie School.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, good afternoon. How are you all?
Hi,
good
Marion.
afternoon.
Thanks for
Anyway,
joining.
no worries. Thanks for everything you're doing. Yeah, we're at a small private school in Massachusetts. Private and public are a little bit different right now. Public schools in Massachusetts have been going pre-season since September 18th. And I think they should be starting to looking at some restricted competition starting very soon. And I'm thinking that soccer, volleyball, cross country. I don't think football, but someone might correct me on that at some point. Private schools in New England, however, have been a lot more restricted. They're trying to limit the boarding student, day student interaction, as far as I could tell, in the main. We started our pre-season a couple of weeks ago, so we're doing modified practices, and we're not looking at any competition. I believe most private schools are not looking to do anything this fall interscholastically. but the ones who are looking probably mid-October, and that will be soccer, cross country, and volleyball. So it's very restrictive here so far. Connecticut, just down the road, is slightly more open for the public school portion of it. They don't have to wear masks playing soccer, for example, whereas in Massachusetts, all soccer games will be masked for the whole game. So for a small area, you've got these big differences. It's very much done by district as well. We're following our Board of Health guidelines, so my hands are tied and the kids are getting itchy, and it's very difficult to keep them motivated. So I appreciate all the advice people are giving, especially those who have been through this for weeks already. Tough situation, but we're getting there. We're hoping what we do this fall will lead to a better winter, which will lead to a fantastic spring for those who missed out.
Great. I appreciate you, Sharon. Thanks so much.
Ira.
Ira.
More, Amanda, you want to get to?
No, let's move on to the in-season COVID protocols that we have, right? And do you want to talk about Florida first? I can kind of talk about what we do, and then other people can kind of chime in.
Yeah, the one thing we are going on is the obviously the National High School Federation. They gave a designation to different sports, and so football and lacrosse for us that we have are the high risk sports, and those sports for us must be remote. So while everyone else, in other sports can come to school in person, the football and lacrosse programs for us have to stay with the online and remote learning. Just because, so we're trying to create a bubble. They don't interact. They come in different entrants. It's really, we really have it isolated off purposely, and that was one of the things that our staff really wanted to do, and so far it's working well. The other protocols are pretty much, I would say, standard across the board. Our volleyball team is, just for example, they're playing, they're sanitized, they're playing in mask. And also the ball is sanitized, and that sort of thing. There's no benches, they're standing up, they're separated. So, those are, that's a thing that we're doing, currently right now with them. We do have our cheerleaders, they are there. We're not allowing students, we're allowing parents to the games, two per student athlete, but not students. In fact, we're looking at potentially setting up here for our football games, a drive-in, like a theater in our parking lot where students can come and watch the game from their car, like the old school.
Interesting.
I'm probably older than most people on this, so you probably guys don't know what drive-ins are, but
in
the day we used to have drive-ins.
I know what a drive-in is. I don't know where
yeah. So we're looking at doing that for the students, but we just don't want to have them in the games right now because you just have a hard time keeping them socially distant. And as much as you try, that's a tough task. So those are some of the things we're doing for the protocols, Amanda.
Yeah, so for us, we had to adjust. So we did day one, a lot of kids here, some congestion, right? Because some kids want to take showers. So it's limiting in how many can fit in each shower and team rooms. And then it's weight room, right? So it's, do they wear masks in the weight room? Do they not? They don't have to because it's considered exercise, but we determined that it's better for them to actually wear them in there. So for us, they're wearing them in there. And then, getting kids in and out of locker rooms. Our locker rooms are open. No more than 8 go in, depending on the locker room, right? And somebody's at the door, like, drop your stuff and go, change and go. And so it's a lot of kind of what everybody's talked about reminding them that we've got to move along, right? And then it's everybody, we need to know who's on campus at all times. So it's check-in sheets and, making sure we're cleaning stuff down. Our weight room closes down after every 50-minute session. It closes down for 10 minutes and they clean the whole thing, with that sprayer thing I showed you guys. And and then the locker rooms and the bathrooms, the same type of thing. We have an outdoor training facility. We took our training room and moved it outdoors so the kids can get that. And we also included a snack drink type station for people so they can get nutrition as well coming in and out of weight rooms or whatnot. So we're lucky because we have a separation. So we have Heisman Lane, which is one way is academics, the other way is athletics. So we try to keep our athletes on this side until lunchtime and then they flop. So yeah, it's been good, but it's, you know, it's ever changing. So every day is something new. Yeah. Anybody else want to share about protocols that they're doing? If not, we can move on, and we can always circle back.
Yeah.
We can move on and circle back too. So the next is new NCAA rules. Ira, you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, this has been a big thing. We did our NCAA summit like 3 weeks ago. We had college coaches come on, and we had somebody, a representative for the NCAA, be on there and talk about it. But the one thing I think that we got to be careful with high school, as high school coaches and athletic directors, is that these current seniors here right now have one more year after this. So everybody got one more year, even if you're a freshman, junior. There's no red shirt this year, so that year doesn't count. So when you're thinking about, from a recruiting standpoint, student athletes and you're guiding student athletes and families to different schools, keep in mind that roster you see right now could potentially be the same roster next year. So if you're a softball student athlete and you're saying, hey, you know what, they're losing their third baseman at North Carolina State, for example, well, they may not be losing that third baseman at North Carolina State. And so the student athlete you send in there may be prepared to have to, sit behind somebody that's coming back. When you look on the chart there, it says, hey, you know what, they're a senior, but actually they're coming back for another year. So just keep that in mind. The rules have been amended. The other big rule change to keep in mind, they just extended the dead period to January 1. Ordinarily, our school right now will be crawling with college coaches, but they can't be here. So everything is being done still via Zoom and via text and phone. So that's something that they may want to think about too, is how you're going to make those connections with college coaches when they cannot visit your campus, and that's been extended to January 1.
Okay, yeah, that's great. That's great information. Any questions on the NCAA stuff? I don't see any questions come up. Fans attending games, Ira. I don't know in California. I was hopeful. I'm hopeful right at this point we just play. I do think we'll play. I don't know that we'll have fans. I think if we do, it's going to be maybe, maybe family members only type scenario, but I can't imagine they're going to let 8,000 people sit in any type of a football stadium this year. What are your thoughts?
In Florida, we may have a packed house tomorrow. I'm just kidding, but I don't think so. We're only doing two fans per student athlete, or two family members per student athlete. So we're good there. I mean, I don't see any big crowds anytime soon. So I just think we just gotta understand that it's not going to be fans this year. As I mentioned earlier, we're not allowing even our students to come to games here at Gulliver Prep, just because from a safety standpoint, it's just hard to manage that social distancing. So that's not being allowed. As far as California, Carlos, Anthony, anything? I know you guys are insiders out there in Cali. You got some inside scoop, any inside scoop on fans or anything like that?
Nothing yet, Ira. We haven't been given anything, any guidance at all. So
Okay.
we'll see. We got a this Friday, our Board of Governors here in the North Coast section is actually voting to start our football season a week earlier, because that December 14th date fell on a lot of schools' finals week. So we'll know if we're going to be pushing that up a week earlier on Friday. So, but other than that, we haven't heard anything. And I'm hoping we can just play, and then we'll deal with if we can have fans or not.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ira, we're just hoping that we can just play too, but we're hoping that we can get some of Amanda's fans down here so we can fill our seat. That'd be a real nice treat for us. Maybe we can borrow some of that 8,000. But
hey, come up here. Come play up here. I told Ira he needs to come here. Come.
Yeah, well,
we're playing Modern Day right now. I think my assistant athletic director Laz is on here. He's booking Modern Day as we speak.
January
for next year.
Amanda, Parker is happy to take you on in our
right now.
sports team. We'll be ready to go.
I love it. You're walking on the treadmill, aren't you?
I am. I got a treadmill in my office. Got to keep it moving. Got to keep it moving.
I love it. I love it. No, I think California is going to leave it up. From my understanding, California is going to leave it up to the district on how they're going to handle fans. I don't think CIF is going to come down with that. It's going to be the state basically on what color we are, and that'll determine kind of the numbers, right? Whether it's 100 or 250 or 500 or whatnot. So I think IRA is going to come down from a different level than it's going to come from state with numbers and districts to decide what they want to do.
Right.
And then the last piece on the agenda, I owe you about 3 minutes, is student athletes in remote school. So here we are, with a few exceptions, our student athletes, if they're going to be on campus to practice, have to at least do the hybrid. We're not allowing them to stay away. So they've kind of have to, if they decide they want to stay home, then they're not coming to practice. If they decide they want to do hybrid, then they can kind of come to practice so that we can continue doing our contact tracing and the rules that we have for that. So how are you guys handling that? You said you have some teams home.
Yeah, some teams home, and you can do either one. I mean, if you can come, you can be home, or you can be in person. You can still play sports. Obviously, we have some teams home by design. Anyone else that's doing that differently? I'd like to hear if anybody else is doing that, has a strict policy on remote or online versus being in person.
We had an interesting debate here with how could you be a remote learner and still come to athletic events, athletic practices or games? And when you're competing with the academia that we are sometimes, we've kind of put it down that we can't be the moral police. That's the parents' job to decide if they want to be in athletics or not. That's not the educator's job. So that was an interesting battle that we took with some of our colleagues. If you are participating in athletics, you still have to be tested every Monday if you're a remote learner or not. That was one of the concessions in which we made.
Would you send that information out for the testing? I know a lot of people were asking. Just send out like what you're using or whatever, so people can kind of look into that.
Yes, I gotta contact my head and get the exact lab, and I'll send it to you guys.
That'd be great.
If you want to post in the notes.
Great.
Okay, perfect.
Well, Ira, we only got another minute or two. I want to say before, again, I say it every time, but we're strong because of the job we're in. We're stronger together, and it's so great to see everybody. I can't stress enough. I love how you guys are sharing. I'm so happy for those of you that are open and playing. I do feel for you that are not, such as myself yet. But those of you that haven't even practiced yet, just hang in there. It will come. This is going to end at some point. But we just got to keep doing our due diligence and grinding every day. Final thoughts, Ira, from you.
No, as I always say, I appreciate this group. We're getting together. I'm a little less frequently now that everybody's back, but we'll still keep getting together because this has been a strong group, and we like bringing information here. And as we go on throughout this year, we'll have more information to go. And please share this via social media, like I always tell you, and let people know about it. We want to keep helping the athletic directors as much as we can, and we learn a lot from you as much as hopefully you're learning from the people and that we have on as well. So it was a great guest today. I know many of you have texted or emailed about Laura. Her contact information is in the chat, so feel free to email her directly if you want to get a hold of her. So with that being said, thank you and have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.